Okay. Roman.
Oh, Al's here. Stop talking bad about him.
What did you say?
Nothing, Al. I was just saying, what a great chairman you are. You're just incredible. I think you're like a vision, you know, a visionary. When I grow up, I want to be just like you.
Did
you eat one?
I did not.
I see Martin is on.
I am here.
Martin, the first item on the agenda is about Habitat for Humanity. So I'll recuse myself and ask you to chair.
Okay, sounds good.
Amy's on. We have 2 participants so far in the audience, looks like.
It's the Dans.
We'll wait a couple of minutes for Chris. Well, it's not even 6 yet, just 6. We can wait for Chris a little bit. shall we get started? I don't know. I haven't heard from Chris. Unless he's just tied up.
I haven't heard anything.
No, we'll wait till
I'll text
6:05.
him. I'll text him.
Okay.
He's working, but he said he's going to be a little late.
Great, thanks for the update.
Okay, so I think we should get started. This is a meeting of the planning board workshop session. And before we begin, I do want to take this opportunity to recognize Amy Levine, our corporation counsel, who's leaving us and going to the dark side. And I can only say that her expertise and thoroughness, dedication has been just unbelievable. I don't know if anybody can replace you, Amy. And I know that you provided to all the board members, both collectively and individually, just a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of understanding. I think you made us all better people, better public servants. And I just wish you well. And I imagine we might be bumping into each other maybe once in a while, because I know you've offered to continue to assist if needed. And I just hope that the powers that be bring us somebody who can, they can never take your place, but at least be there and be able to counsel us. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Al. And I really have to say thank you to you guys too, because as board members, you know, you're always prepared. You guys always have fantastic questions. You guys always come to the situations from a different perspective that helps me learn some new things too. You know, you guys have really, you've made my job a lot easier here, and I'm going to miss all of you very much. But, you know, as Al said, we'll probably bump into each other. I'm still going to be in Albany, so you know, I'll be around. I'll you know, have to keep track of what's going on at the city, I imagine. So
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All righty, so our first item on the agenda is subdivision plans for Habitat for Humanity. And I will recuse myself as I am on the Finance Committee of Habitat. And Zach, you can call me on my cell phone when you are done. Martin will take over as chair.
Okay, it should be fairly quick because there's just a few updates.
Okay, thank you, Al. And let's see, I guess being that it's a workshop, really, you just take over, right, Zach, and talk about the project.
Yep, yeah,
Okay.
and
Okay, good.
yeah, and as I just mentioned, I'm gonna mute Al and stop his video just for the time being, as he's recused himself. So really, there's just some quick project updates. The board saw this last in December, I think on the 22nd. Since that time, the projects has received approval letters from the Division of Engineering, the Department of Fire and Fire Safety, and Department of Water and Water Supply. They're still addressing some comments from the Division of Traffic Engineering, but really the comments were relating to angled parking. And basically the division said, remove the angled parking, which they have. But it's still with the Division of Traffic Engineering just to confirm that it meets all of their standards before the public hearing on the 23rd for the proposed subdivision and then the major development plan review. And then this is what the site looks like now without the angled parking. That's really the only major change that's happened since the board last saw the application. Any questions on this?
Let's see, I don't have any. It's obviously 3 semi-detached buildings, right on quite a steep lot. It must slope down towards the back.
Yeah, there's a pretty steep
That's right.
grade change down into the other housing authority buildings
Okay.
off Pearl Street.
Okay. I remember it now. Let's see, any questions? Sounds like we can get Al back then, right?
Yep, I'm gonna call him a sec. I'm just gonna put myself on mute.
Sure.
I'll be right back. Should just be a few seconds.
Zach, I think you've got me. I can't undo the camera.
I think I just asked you to start the video. Let me know if you're, yep, there you go. Sorry about that.
Okay, I think that's it. There we go. All righty. I believe the next item on the agenda, Zach. Yes, it's North Pearl Street. This is a proposal, I think, that is located at Pearl and across from, I believe, the new Capital Rep Theater, if I'm not mistaken.
So it's across the street from,
Jack?
Yep, it's across the street from oh my gosh, from the Palace. It's off
I
Wilson
can't
Street.
hear you. It's probably maybe my problem. I'm going to have to go out and come back in again, I think, because your voice is not coming through for me. Were you able to hear me talk?
I'm able to hear you speak. Are any other board members having issues with me speaking? Okay.
I'm still having problems hearing you.
I haven't said anything. Can you hear me now? Are you able to hear me now, Al?
Zach, I'm having technical problems. I can't hear you. And I'm wondering if there's something wrong with my system here. I will go back out and go back in maybe.
Okay, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. Now I can hear you. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Something went screwy. I don't know why.
Yeah. So getting back to where we were before the technical issues, this property is located at the corner of North Pearl Street and Wilson Street. It's located in both residential multifamily and mixed-use community urban zoning district. And the applicant is proposing to construct an approximately 12,000 square foot 4-story multifamily building with 11 dwelling units and a surface parking lot with 9 parking spaces. So this is a photo of the site. It looks like that didn't carry over. Apologies for that. This should read as RM for residential multifamily. So the majority of the property is within the multifamily zoning district, and the smaller portion to the east is within the mixed-use community urban zoning district. And it's located right on the border of the downtown neighborhood and the Tenbrook Triangle neighborhood. So this is a site plan for the site with the building occupying the corner of the lot and with the surface parking lot to the eastern portion of the site, reutilizing an existing curb cut that is present on the site with 9 parking spaces shown here. Annotate. And then some outdoor recreational area, just with some benches and some landscaping on this side. Here's the Pearl Street elevation, trying to replicate the change in facade to replicate the, or reflect the existing buildings along North Pearl Street as you head north, showing the articulation. And then this is the elevation facing Wilson Street, again, trying to do a change in materials and articulation, again, to kind of reflect the townhouse characteristics of the zone. And here are the elevations in context with the surrounding buildings. This is on Pearl Street. And then this is on Wilson Street, which this shows how the applicant is proposing screening for the surface parking lot. These are the floor plans. So for the ground floor, there are 2 residential units. All the residential units in the proposed building are 1-bedrooms. They range from 676 square feet to 900 square feet, with most of them more towards the 800 to 900 square foot range. There's also a fitness center for residents on the ground floor, occupying this portion of the building. And then as you move up, each of the floors have 3 units as you proceed upward. Yep, so I just mentioned that there's 11 one-bedroom units. A previous iteration of this project appeared before the planning board.
Yeah, it did look
back in,
familiar.
yeah, back in
I-
2000. Oh, I'm sorry, Al.
Yeah, I thought that location, and I remember because it was steep, and I remember that there was some question as to what happens on the side as you go down the hill.
Yeah, and so with that previous version, the applicant actually had requested 2 extensions, one from chief planning official and then from the planning board. So a previous iteration of this project came before the board, I believe, two or 3 years ago. And in that version, it was 3.5 stories with 18 units and garage parking for 15 vehicles. And since that time, their previous approvals have expired. And I think there were some issues relating to the garage parking that caused the applicant to shift that to a surface parking lot. And so given that there's minimal changes between the last time this was reviewed through seeker, and there's actually going to be a reduction in a lot of the impacts for the project, I'm going to be drafting up a technical memo to show how the previously approved project and the current project relate and what the changes are. And I'll be sharing that with the board in the coming weeks. And if it's amenable to you, just amending the previously approved seeker determination. And if not, then we can use that concept meeting to do lead agency declaration for the planning board and the Historic Resources Commission and the State Historic Preservation Office.
I'd like to, as we know, we can ask attendees for clarification. So I'd like to ask Dan Sanders what the issue was or what the problem was about the parking, because the last plan did show the parking as in the building taking advantage of the slope. And I'm wondering, is it geotechnical, what that was the issue, or, and why were the units reduced?
Give me just 1 second. Let me unmute Dan.
Okay. Thanks. I wasn't sure. You can hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So essentially the numbers for the 18 unit apartment, et cetera, came in exceedingly high for the budget for the project. So it was scaled back down. We've done about 4 or 5 iterations of this site. And the geotechnical and or the site costs with potential sheet piling or dramatic types of grading issues and retaining walls really made the project even less feasible, so that the surface parking worked out as the most practical way of doing the parking on the site, and also cutting down scale of the project accordingly. So we have 9 on the lot right now, and then street parking would allow for a 1-to-1 ratio for the 11 one-bedrooms.
Okay, and the when you had the 18 units, was it more expensive to build because you had to go up another story and so you had to use steel versus?
No, not because of steel, just because of just the scope of the project and the pro forma. I believe the owner just backed out of that scale project.
Okay.
I didn't get into it that much, except that the garage parking was, the return on garage parking is not normally a good trade-off for a small project. I mean, it starts paying off for 50 to 100 apartments much more practically than 10 to 20.
Right. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
And Zach, I believe that they probably get an additional bonus because that's a bus route, right?
Yeah,
So
they
is
would
it-
get a 20% reduction for being located close to the Bus Plus Blue Line. And then there's also on-street parking as well for the small portion that's MUCU, the on-street parking in front of the structure doesn't count in the RM or residential zoning districts.
Okay. Any
Any
other
other
questions? Okay. And the next project.
So this is a fairly quick one. This is just formalizing the lead agency declaration. So just as a reminder, for 42 and 47 Besh Avenue and 22 Holland Avenue, there are two projects that are both proposing modifications and use of 22 Holland Avenue. So as a result, the seeker review is going to be combined for both and be done at the same time. So this is just setting up that lead agency declaration at the next meeting for that. Just kind of as a reminder for 42 and 47 Besh Avenue, they're using subsurface detention basins on 22 Holland Avenue, which you can see with the blue rectangles. So that's why these are being reviewed together. Since they're being reviewed together, the seeker determination would need to be made first before any actions are taken. In terms for the conditional use permit for 22 Holland Avenue or for, any one of the applications that are being proposed. So, if the board has concerns about any of the applications, I think it's good to bring it up with the applicants, at public meetings, just so if they decide that they want to modify their application, that they can do so ahead of time, and not have to wait until the board has completed the seeker review, for any potential denials or any conditions or modifications that may delay either of the projects. And the seeker materials for this project are going to be referred to the Albany County Department of Health and the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation for sewer extension.
Does the board have any thoughts or comments on either the Besh project or the 22 Holland Avenue project?
No, they're separate developers, right? Separate owners.
Yep.
Right. But what kind of arrangement does 42 and 47 Besh have to arrive at to use 22 Holland Avenue it sounds like in perpetuity, correct? In order to maintain that operation.
Yeah, I think it would just be, a utility easement functionally for the use of the on-site detention. 22 Holland Avenue and 42 and 47 Besh Avenue are all currently owned by Sable Browning. So it's common ownership. So I think, that's why we're seeing both of these applications at the same time. And I think that's why it's easier for them to be using the detention basins on 22 Holland Avenue.
Okay. And I know we talked last time, the restaurant at 22 Holland is actually going to be leasing the land for 20 years. 42 and 47,
yes.
though, they're going to purchase that site, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I noticed that concerning Besh, the edge of Besh on the western side of the property is very, very close to the houses. And it seems like one of the things that needs to happen there is that some major vegetation and fencing, or some kind of visual barrier. So I think that's one thing that I think I'd like to see when they come back to the board.
Yeah. and
Now, I
since
thought
they're-
that they said that they were gonna retain a lot of the trees and whatnot, and because of the elevation, they weren't anticipating a major impact on the neighborhood. On
I'm
the Besh
talking
side.
about the west side, not the Besh Avenue side.
Right.
Yeah, on the Besh Avenue side, they got to plant conifers there because the trees right now, you could see right over them. But the other side is what I'm concerned about, because the edge of the building pretty much comes pretty close to the property edge.
Right, and the building on the other side of the property line is also very close, so they're extremely close. I agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and since they're a multifamily building that's immediately adjacent to, I believe, 2 family buildings, they're required to do side lot line screening anyway. So they will be doing that they're required to do that as a component of the application. And I think they have the ability to do 2 different types of screening options. There's one that's, like fencing or vegetative screening. And then there's another option that includes, trees and lower shrubs as well. So I think there's 2 options that they can choose to do as part of that. Whether that fully addresses some of the visual impacts that you're referencing, it might be helpful to see what that looks like. Visually see what that is, through visualizations or see that rendered.
Yeah, I think that'd be helpful.
Did you have a question, Al?
No. I guess the other thing on 22 Holland, it was mentioned in very specific terms that last meeting that one of the items that the Popeyes organization will not bend on is the building and the architecture of the building. But I look across the street and I look at the McDonald's that is a fast food corporate giant, and they have modified their design, and their designs are not the same. They do a pretty decent job of putting up something that I think architecturally works much better. And I just don't understand why Popeyes has to keep the architecture that they're insisting on. I have a real problem with that building and the way it looks, especially with that blank wall. It's just not a very attractive building. And I think that if they want to get this thing through, they got to put something there that's going to at least relate better to the community. And it seems to me that if McDonald's can do it, and this is only one site, McDonald's has adapted their styles to different environments. And I think that message needs to be taken back to the corporate people. Right now, I'm reluctant to allow that to go forward if the building is going to look like it is in the drawings that they've given us so far. I mean, I have more problems with it than that. Traffic is another one, but that to me is a major one.
Yeah, so usually with corporate businesses like that, they have a few different sets of designs, and usually they start with a certain set. And if there's, certain local restrictions or pushback, they might modify in order to address some of those concerns. And I think there's also the potential that there could be, options for landscaping as well to maybe address, some of the concerns you were mentioning with the blank wall. So if there's certain design elements that, you all are noticing or think need to be addressed or revised, I think it would be, a good opportunity to discuss that at the upcoming meeting, or feel free to send those to me and I can relay those to the applicant as well. But I think it's good to bring that up at the meeting so that they can modify the site plan so they can address many of the concerns you have as the board, whether that be through the building design or the site layout and landscaping.
Well, I also feel that the applicant needs to look very closely at both the major development plan and the conditional use criteria, and see how they think it fits in.
Yes, I think that's a good point.
Yeah, and I think, again, at the next meeting, if there are certain concerns that you have with how the current application is complying or not complying with some of those standards, I think that's a good opportunity to, raise those questions, and, you can always request a formal response of, or have the applicant address how they are responding to those review criteria, or how they can make modifications in order to better align with those review criteria.
Okay. Any other thoughts by the board? Okay. What's next?
That is it. It is a very short agenda.
That's amazing.
So,
Okay. Alrighty. Any other business to come before the board tonight? All right.
Are we going to see Amy again, or is she done?
Well, she said that she's going to be leaving on the 19th, so she's scooting out of the last planning board meeting.
Oh, that's too bad.
I am working with my office to try and, to make sure that somebody's going to be here for the meeting, and I will certainly be filling them in on all of the, inner workings and the backstory of these applications. So, hopefully everything will run very smoothly for the meeting, and I might even watch it.
Well,
And
Amy, it's been a pleasure. Thanks.
Now she
Yes,
could
absolutely.
be an angry citizen.
Yeah, just you guys wait and see.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all of your help, Amy. We really appreciate your service and your dedication to the board. So, like I said earlier, I'm glad to see you're moving on and moving up. So let's definitely keep in touch.
Thank you guys. I'm going to miss you.
All righty. Thank you all. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Okay, very good.
Bye-bye.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Take care.